Broncos Country Tonight, breaking down the Broncos win over the Carolina Panthers. We're going to switch over to the defensive side now. Broncos give up 27 points, 370 yards, 125 on the ground. The thing that I wasn't too impressed by in this is it seemed like when Carolina was able to turn things on, especially in the fourth quarter when they had that 28-second drive and scored a touchdown, like things like that have me a little bit concerned. And at this point, I think that maybe is a bit of the function of the injuries kind of catching up to you, especially in the secondary.
I think a lot of it was a function of the injuries. I mean, you're down on your corners, and then you lost Duke Dawson on top of it. You just don't have bodies at the corner position, and that's kind of a problem. They got a little gassed there late, and they gave up trying to play a little soft, and it was a little too soft and allowed them back into it. But that's a function of trying to mitigate the damage with that. They went after Michael Ojemudia quite a bit. They picked on the rookie. I thought Devontae Bosby held up really well, made two very clutch tackles, could have had an interception, went through his hands. His eyes got a little bigger than his hands were, but that's the second time this season we've seen that out of Bosby. You go back to the Jets game, we came on in relief of St. Bassey and probably could have housed a 100-yard pick six if his eyes hadn't gotten so big. So I'm looking forward to it. I think Bosby's going to wind up racking up some interceptions over the next couple of games. Certainly got the quarterbacks to be able to do that. The question really is that secondary going to get worn down just from a lack of bodies out there? Justin Simmons and Iron Man, that'd be fine. You don't have to worry about that. K-Jack, same thing. Will Parks will definitely help out of the slot, but you've basically got Michael Ojemudia and Devontae Bosby on the outside. That's really it. Elijah Holder has some experience. Can play in a pinch. Can play a little bit of corner, but that's dicey. And the times we saw him do that against Kansas City, he got worked. And then they're bringing in Parnell Motley, a guy I liked out of the draft, but he's raw, really more of a man guy than anything else. And so it's going to take him a while to get up to speed and into this scheme. They've got Hairston as well.
Yeah, I was going to say they picked up Nate Hairston.
That's a body, but that's it's a warm body. But again, it's tough to really know what he's going to be in this scheme. He does have experience in the zone scheme with the Colts. So I'm intrigued to see what they could do down a stretch. I liked what the defense did. Shelby got his hands on another one. As he does. And I think some of these guys are starting to come in their own. We're seeing more out of Draymond, and I think that's good. We need him to come on. So, I liked what the defense did. I felt like they could have done a little more, but they were obviously shorthanded.
Yeah, well, and that will be a little bit of a storyline down the stretch here, and especially as you get ready to face Buffalo as a team that has a lot of high-powered wide receivers, a lot of speed out there, especially if they get John Brown back or something to that effect. But again, most of the guys out there, you got this possession guy with Cole Beasley, and Stephon Diggs is just a tremendous route runner. He's got a little bit of a mix of that athleticism and speed. But more than anything, for the Broncos, that's going to be the way to attack this team. Do you think that because of the way the Broncos are set up, because of the injuries they have to the secondary, that you're going to see a ton more zone? You're going to see them kind of a little bit like what they did against Kansas City, where they just try to keep everything in front of them and try to do their best to lock down in the red zone, accepting field goals instead of touchdowns.
I think you might see that in the Raiders game. I think the next two games they're going to try and zero blitz a bunch because those next two quarterbacks, Allen and Herbert, struggle under duress a little bit. And so I think you're going to see them zero blitz a little bit, those guys, and see if they can get something out of it. If they can, they'll continue to do it. If not, then they'll fall back to a situation like what you described.
They got some good pressure on Teddy Bridgewater.
They did, and one of the things we've seen out of Vic over the last couple of weeks since the Miami game is they're really aggressive with the stunts. They're running that twist a lot, and Jerry Atachu got home on a sack, blasted Teddy Bridgewater on a sack, coming off the stunt there like that. So I like that. I like that they're doing that a little bit more. I think it's hard to do when you've got young guys that aren't used to doing it. But I like that they're doing it more and showing a little wrinkle or two especially for these the quarterbacks that don't have a lot of starts. Doing it against a Matt Ryan doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if you're doing it against a Tua, you're doing it against a Bridgewater. Bridgewater's got some starts in the league, but for all intents and purposes, he doesn't have as many starts as you think he does. And they do it against maybe a Herbert or an Allen coming up. I think those would be good. I'd steer clear of that if I were Carr. But the rest of them, I think you can deploy some of that.
Yeah, and Vic Fangio's had to get creative. I mean, if anything, this is a little bit of a testament to him. And the fact is, he's missing so much talent on the defensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. He was asked about that with the media about have you ever seen a season where you've missed so many guys, especially in the secondary. He's like, he's like, I've been coaching for a really long time, but nothing comes to mind. So, I mean, the creativity that has to happen with the roster that you thought you were going to have coming into this season to what it is now, a bit of a shell of what it was. then yeah, I mean, you have to get a little bit creative. And I guess we're going to see a little bit more of that as we deal with this. And the other thing is I mean, you mentioned Parnell Motley, but he's not even be available for this game against the Bills. I mean, that is another kind of added factor here is you can't even just bring in a guy that's familiar with your system or you think could be a body for you out there. You can't even do that in these during COVID times because these guys have to go through so many checks.
Right, and so that takes that away. But he will be available for the games after that, and it gives you one more body down the stretch. But like I said, it's probably going to be Hairston and Holder and Parks, and you're just making a hodgepodge crew trying to get it all together. Now, the interesting thing about this is while the Bills do go three wide a little bit, Cole Beasley and stuff like that, having these bigger guys at these converted safeties as your third corner does give you a little bit of an edge in a run game, and we all know Buffalo likes to run the football, so that may help a little bit with some of that kind of stuff. But I'm just looking trying to find a bright spot for as decimated as that secondary is.
But you know what I did like in this game is this was an example. So many times it's been the defense that needs to pick up the offense. It was the other way around. The offense was the one, you sort of knew, hey, if the Broncos are going to put up 4 passing touchdowns, they're probably not going to lose this game. Even though the defense did give up quite a few yards, they made the stop when they absolutely had to. And if you want to look for signs of progress, because people are always looking for signs of progress, you remember just last year when it was the other way around, the defense needed to come up with the stop and they just couldn't do it so many times. The Colts game, the Jags game, the Bears game, you can point to those exact moments. The Minnesota Vikings game, the second half of that game. So many times where the defense needed a key stop when they desperately had to have it to win the game and they just couldn't do it. This was the other way around. The defense in the entire fourth quarter, they gave 17 points in the fourth quarter. When they needed it, though, they got it done in that final drive, and that gives me confidence at least about the nuts and bolts of the defense.
I think that's the story, if you will, of this season. The Broncos defense got it done when they needed to. Now, they got to score more points next year, but I think that's something to hang your hat on and carry forward.